Guys, I'd like to hear from you. What's worth thinking about to you? What gets you guys through the day, or not just through the day, but like kind of gets you up in the morning? Why haven't you killed yourself yet? You know, what's worth thinking about? What do you deem important? Because I don't know. Everything just seems kind of frivolous. Like everything just seems, I don't know. Everything seems a little pointless sometimes. I feel that. I understand. I'm sorry. Phrased the question wrong, because the baseline's fine. You know, I think the recipe to happiness is not hard to find. It's pretty right in front of you. You know, it's like friends, family, sunshine, a bit of exercise, just the basic maintenance of your life to make sure you're not having some sort of, mental, physiological struggles that are going to impede your ability to be happy. But just, I guess maybe career-wise, what are you working towards? Do you ever think about what you're working towards? Like, not your life in a literal sense of like aging and dying. Obviously, the point of it's like, have kids, go outside, have friends. But I just mean like career, Like, where do you see your life going? Just winging it. That's a pretty good answer. Make sound effects in your Discord servers. That's fun. You want to be a writer. What are you doing to become a writer? I'd like to know that. Because writing is a very archaic task. Like the book, the book is it's an archaic medium. You don't really need to write a book anymore. Well, here's the difficult, I guess, here's the hard to suck, okay? The hard to suck is that if you look at a platform like YouTube doesn't like anything artistic or challenging. It's the algorithm's very bad for anything challenging. If you can make a thumbnail, for example, and the thumbnail could sort of be like a very artistic, very, you could really channel like 70s movie poster, like kind of like a very artsy, beautiful thumbnail. And it's not going to do well. It's not going to do well because what YouTube wants to see is just, what drives clicks. And what drives clicks usually isn't challenging because
Some of us are more invested in making sure other people make it, and the career is simply a means to do so. Not everyone wants or needs a legacy, but you can care about people who do.
Legacy is a strong word. I think legacy is kind of dumb. YouTube values what is expedient, and that's fine. That's the name of the game. I think that's it's important to not get high hopes when you're producing things on the internet, because what drives clicks is what wins. So you're not going to win over people with by challenging them, by challenging them with a piece of media that they have to consider, that they have to sort of chew on. That's not going to do well. It will never do well. I guess you sort of earn that right, and things like that develop over time. Things like that happen over years. Is what it takes for a challenging piece of artwork to sort of be appreciated. But I don't know, everything counters CJ. CJ is still very dopaminergic though. I think CJ walks a great line of challenging and dopaminergic. It's like a perfect mix. I don't think, if CJ had the same videos, exact same text, okay? Exact same text for CJ. But if those videos were read by a straight dude with a really deep, slow voice and like faceless, 0 views. Or like, it'd be like a schizophrenic rambling. You wouldn't pay attention to it. It's a very fine line. It's a very careful balance. Very, very careful balance. What do you think the point of art is? I have no idea. I think art, Mark Fisher, who I refrained from quoting or engaging with too much because he killed himself and he had very depressing takes on reality. And I think his depression was the precursor to his ideas. I'm going to go on a limb and say that, given that he has such a depressing philosophy on everything, and then killed himself. And I think if he didn't have depression, he wouldn't have had a depressing outlook on life. So take that with a grain of salt. But he has this great kind of quip about museums and how museums, when we visit a museum, what we're visiting and what we're gazing at isn't artwork. We're gazing at people who used to believe in something. The artwork isn't a representation of just art. You're not looking at a painting of, let's say, the death of Socrates, Jacques-Louis David. You're not looking at that painting and thinking like, oh, what a beautiful, I guess a little bit, but like, what a beautiful brushstrokes. Like, oh, what a talented young man painted this fine piece of artwork. What you're really appreciating is that this comes from an era where there was like a collective understanding of what society was. A museum is like a church. You're gazing at artifacts representing a time in which people believed in something collectively. When you're no one would make, there is nothing analogous to the death of Socrates. There's nothing analogous to like Goya's paintings in the sense of what they represent, because they represent like a collective understanding of greatness. They represent like modernity. They represent growth. They represent progress. They represent like a higher sense of being, and they represent like a belief in something. Right, whatever that something is a little nebulous, but they represent a belief in something. And I think we really like the idea of going, but like looking at a museum and being like, oh, these people, this is what society used to be. This is what culture used to be. People used to like do something. People used to, aim up at something. And now, and that's retrospective. Maybe what would the equivalent be now? What would the equivalent be now? Like the belief in individual wealth. And I'm trying to think of like some artwork that would represent that. Cause. I was in Miami, and I have to find that artist that is everywhere in Miami. And I mean literally the entire city is decorated with this one artist. Miami artist sculpture. I know it the second I saw it because they sucked. They're so stupid. This guy, yes, Romero Brito. This guy. Romero Brito, okay? These sculptures right here, this shit is all over Miami. I was out in a suburb, and it was in the suburb, and it's downtown. It's everywhere. And this is sort of a monument to, that sounds so edgy to say like capitalism as a religion, but I think individual wealth and sort of a baseless individual wealth as a religion, as a belief, right? There's no sort of like, this doesn't represent something about how rich and virile the culture is. Ooh, a rune chain body, right? This is not saying something about culture. This is not saying something about like society collectively. It's not saying something about belief. It's not saying something about religion. It's not saying something about like leadership. Societal values. It is just like a representation of the concept of the pursuit of individual wealth by any means necessary. And you look into this guy has like his own real estate chain, and there are skyscrapers in Miami named after him because he owns them, right? This is like what this guy has done, and I think maybe the most interesting thing about this would be that it's not a representation of providing value. It's not like artwork that someone has created to provide value to a wider audience or to society or to represent something. It's artwork that was created solely for the speculation and the hype of the artwork being created in order to be bought and sold so the guy can get rich. And I think maybe in 100 years, if this was sitting in the museum in New York, we would look back and think like, oh, this person believed in something, even though now it seems like he doesn't believe in something. But once you're kind of remove it out of the context, you would think this person believed in something. This is representative of a culture that believes in something. So maybe I'm wrong. I'm just sort of black-pilled and stuck in the society we live in. But, you know, it's interesting.